You never truly realize the value of a good man until the silence he leaves behind starts echoing louder than his presence ever did. There is a moment, subtle, almost invisible, when a woman begins to realize what she has truly lost. It doesn't happen right after the breakup. In fact, in those first few days or weeks, she might even feel free, liberated, maybe even convinced that she made the right choice. She fills her time with distractions, with friends, with work, with noise, anything to avoid the silence that used to hold his voice. But slowly, that silence begins to change. It stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling empty. She begins to notice how quiet her mornings have become. There's no good morning text waiting, no voice on the other end checking if she slept well, no subtle presence reminding her that someone, somewhere, genuinely cared about her well-being. That's when it begins, the quiet realization. It creeps in during the most ordinary moments. When she comes home after a long day and there's no one to tell her, "You did well today." When something funny happens and instinctively her first thought is to share it with him, only to remember that she can't. It's in those small, fleeting seconds that she starts to understand that she didn't just lose a relationship. She lost her emotional home. The man who once made her feel seen, understood, and safe is now just a memory. And no matter how many times she tries to push it away, it lingers like a shadow that follows her everywhere. At first, she blames him. She tells herself he didn't try enough, that he gave up, that maybe he wasn't really that good after all. But as the days stretch into weeks, her mind begins to soften. She starts to replay their moments, not with anger, but with curiosity. She remembers the times he stayed patient when she was distant, the times he tried to explain himself when she didn't want to listen, the times he showed up when she expected him to walk away. Those memories begin to take a different shape, not of a man who failed her, but of a man she maybe didn't fully understand. And that's when the quiet realization deepens. It doesn't scream. It doesn't rush. It comes like the slow pull of the tide, steady, undeniable. She begins to see that while she was searching for excitement, perfection, or validation, he was offering stability, loyalty, and calm. The very things she thought were boring suddenly become the things she misses the most. His predictability, his consistency, the way he never made her question where she stood, these qualities, once taken for granted, now feel rare, almost sacred. She realizes that being loved by a good man isn't about constant fireworks or dramatic gestures. It's about quiet effort, gentle understanding, and a kind of love that chooses you every single day, even on the hard ones. And so she starts to look at the world differently. Every conversation with someone new feels a little emptier, every laugh a little forced, because somewhere in the back of her mind, she's comparing, not out of bitterness, but out of truth. The quiet realization is not a loud epiphany. It's a slow internal ache that grows each time she remembers how effortlessly he made her feel loved, how deeply he saw her even when she tried to hide, and how she let that kind of love slip away while chasing something she thought was more. After the quiet realization comes something far heavier. The emotional void. It's not just sadness or regret. It's an emptiness that sits quietly in the background of her life, showing up when she least expects it. At first, she tells herself it's temporary. She believes she can fill the gap with busyness, new hobbies, new faces, or the illusion of moving on. But no matter how much she tries, there's a stillness inside her that refuses to leave. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with tears or breakdowns. It's subtle, like a low hum that never fades, reminding her that something essential is missing. She wakes up in the morning and everything looks the same. The sunlight through the curtains, the smell of coffee, the sound of her favorite playlist. But nothing feels the same. There's a hollowness behind every routine, as if she's watching her life from a distance rather than living it. She used to send a quick message just to share a thought or hear his voice. Now she scrolls through her phone, hesitating for a second before setting it down again. The silence doesn't just surround her, it begins to live inside her. Every space he once occupied, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, now feels like a quiet room she can't seem to fill. She might try to go out with friends, laugh at their jokes, post pictures that look like she's fine, and tell everyone she's over it. But when the laughter fades and the night ends, she returns home to a kind of loneliness that words can't describe. It's not about missing the person, it's about missing the way she felt when she was with him, safe, understood, grounded. There's a difference between being alone and feeling alone. And now she understands that difference with painful clarity. The emotional void is not a result of his absence. It's a result of how deeply his presence once mattered. Every now and then, something will trigger it. A song he used to hum, a scent that reminds her of his cologne, a phrase he used to say. It hits her without warning, a sudden ache that steals her breath for a second. She tells herself it's just nostalgia, that she's strong enough to move past it. But deep down, she knows it's more than that. It's the soul recognizing the space where love used to live. It's the heart's quiet mourning for something it still remembers as home. She begins to realize that emotional connection isn't easily replaced. You can talk to new people, but they won't understand your pauses. You can share stories, but they won't know the feelings behind them. With him, she didn't have to explain. He just knew. And that's what makes the void unbearable. It's not just the absence of love. It's the absence of being known so deeply that even silence felt like communication. That kind of connection doesn't vanish overnight. It leaves traces, echoes that linger in the heart long after the person is gone. Now, even when she tries to move forward, something feels incomplete. The world seems louder, people seem colder, and life feels heavier. The emotional void becomes a quiet companion, not cruel, but constant, reminding her that love, once truly felt, leaves a mark that no distraction can erase. The replay phase begins when the silence becomes too loud, when the emptiness starts demanding answers. It's that period when her mind becomes a movie theater, looping old moments she thought she had buried. Every scene reappears, the good, the bad, the small, the insignificant, all replayed in high definition inside her head. She remembers the way he looked at her during quiet drives, the tone of his voice when he was trying to calm her down, the words she said in anger that she now wishes she could take back. It's not intentional. It just happens. Her mind becomes a place she can't escape, filled with conversations that never really ended and moments that refuse to fade. She lies in bed at night, eyes open, staring into the dark, and her mind starts whispering, what if? What if she had listened instead of reacted? What if she had softened instead of shutting down? What if she had chosen to understand instead of assume? The questions have no answers, yet they come endlessly, turning her peace into a storm of regret and realization. It's not that she wants to relive the past, it's that her heart hasn't accepted that it's over. So she replays it again and again, searching for the exact moment things started to fall apart. She wants to find logic in loss, a reason behind the distance, a moment she can point to and say, this is where it went wrong. But the truth is, the replay never gives closure. It only deepens the ache. Every memory feels heavier now. The things she once overlooked now feel significant. The day he waited for her without complaint, the night he listened even when she had nothing kind to say, the small sacrifices he made quietly, they all come back to her in flashes. It's as if her mind is finally showing her what her heart refused to see when she still had him. She realizes how many moments he chose patience over pride, how many times he showed up even when she made it hard. In the replay, he isn't perfect, but he's real, flawed, but genuine. And that truth hurts more than anything because now she understands the depth of what she lost. Sometimes she'll catch herself smiling at an old memory before the pain follows right after. It's cruel how nostalgia works, how it gives comfort and heartbreak at the same time. She scrolls through old photos, hears their laughter in her head, and for a second it feels like he's still there. But then the moment passes, and she's left with nothing but silence and a racing heart. The replay phase becomes addictive in a strange way. It's painful, but it's also the only way she still feels connected to him. Even if it hurts, at least it feels like something, and after losing him, something is better than nothing. She starts to analyze her words, his tone, their arguments, the distance that grew between them. She wonders if he replayed them too, if his mind ever drifts to the same moments. The human heart has a strange way of holding on, of searching for understanding through pain. And so she keeps replaying it, not to rewrite the story, but to feel close to it one more time, even if it's only in memory. The most exhausting part comes when the heart and the ego start pulling in opposite directions. It's not just an emotional conflict, it's a full-blown war within her. One moment she misses him so deeply that she almost picks up the phone, and the next, her pride stiffens her spine and whispers, "Don't you dare." It's the kind of battle that doesn't show on her face, but drains her from the inside. The ego tells her she needs to stay strong, to appear unbothered, to convince the world she's better off without him. But her heart, quiet, trembling, and raw, keeps whispering that strength sometimes means admitting she still cares. And between those two voices, she finds no peace. Days turn into a performance. She smiles when people ask about him, shrugs when someone mentions his name, acts as though the past doesn't matter. But when she's alone, the mask slips. The silence becomes suffocating, and she finds herself replaying all the things she didn't say. The ego wants to win. It wants her to believe she did the right thing by walking away, by holding back, by letting him think she's fine. But the heart knows the truth, that every act of indifference is a lie she tells herself to survive. She scrolls through his profile, pretending it doesn't matter, yet every new photo, every unfamiliar face stirs something she can't suppress. She closes the app and tells herself she's above it, but the ache doesn't fade. It just burrows deeper. There's a moment when she almost reaches out. Her fingers hover over the screen, typing and deleting, typing again. Her heart races as she imagines his reply, the sound of his voice, the softness of his understanding. But then the ego intervenes. It reminds her of the last time she cried, of the last time she felt rejected, of the fear that he might not care anymore. So she deletes the message, locks her phone, and convinces herself that silence is power. Yet that silence feels heavier than any rejection ever could. It's strange how pride can feel so strong in the moment, but so hollow afterward. The ego keeps her safe but lonely. The heart keeps her vulnerable but alive. And in that constant tug of war, she loses pieces of herself. She starts to question which one to listen to, the one that protects her image or the one that speaks her truth. The ego says, if he wanted you, he'd come back. The heart replies, maybe he's waiting for a sign that you still care. And this endless dialogue becomes the noise she can't escape. It follows her into her dreams, her routines, her quietest moments. Sometimes she imagines what would happen if she just let go of pride for a second, if she allowed herself to be human, to feel, to reach out without fear. But then she remembers the sting of vulnerability, the risk of looking weak, and her defenses rise again. The ego wants to win the war, but the heart doesn't know how to surrender. She lives between the two, pretending she's fine while feeling everything all at once, torn between the need to protect her dignity and the ache to simply love without condition. There comes a time when the pain softens, not because it's gone, but because she's finally tired of fighting it. The tears that once came easily now slow down, and the confusion that used to consume her begins to clear, layer by layer. This is the awakening, the moment when she stops asking why and starts seeing how. How she contributed, how she ignored, how she failed to appreciate the quiet kind of love that doesn't beg to be noticed, but still holds everything together. It's not a sudden realization. It's slow, quiet, and deeply humbling. She starts to see things differently, not as a victim of heartbreak, but as a participant in her own undoing. The awakening often begins when she revisits the past, not with pain, but with clarity. She looks back on the moments she once romanticized and sees the truth hidden beneath them. The arguments that felt justified now look childish. The distance she created to protect herself now feels like emotional laziness. The times she demanded proof of love now feel unnecessary because, in hindsight, he was showing it every day, just not in the ways she expected. His consistency, his patience, his quiet understanding were love in its purest form, but she was too distracted by her expectations to recognize it. Now, with the distance of time, she sees what she had and what she lost, in a light that's both beautiful and heartbreaking. She realizes that good men don't always come with grand gestures or poetic words. They show love in small ways, by remembering, by showing up, by staying even when things get hard. They give stability when the world feels uncertain. But when she had it, she mistook that stability for predictability, that loyalty for routine. The excitement she once craved now feels shallow compared to the quiet peace he offered. And that's when it hits her. That love isn't about the butterflies or the constant thrill. It's about choosing someone every day, even in the silence, even in the mundane. She finally understands that the kind of love that lasts isn't built on fireworks, but on foundation. The awakening changes how she views herself too. For the first time, she looks at her own patterns, the walls she built, the fears she hid behind, the pride she mistook for strength. She realizes she wasn't as open as she thought. She wanted deep love, but wasn't ready to be deeply vulnerable. She wanted to be understood, but rarely tried to understand. The mirror she avoided now reflects more than just pain. It reflects accountability. And that's when she starts to grow. Not because she wants him back, but because she wants to become someone who won't make the same mistakes again. The awakening doesn't erase the past, it reframes it. The love that once broke her now becomes the lesson that builds her. She begins to appreciate the kind of man he was, the calm to her chaos, the patience to her pride, the softness to her defenses. And though she can't go back, she carries the realization forward, quietly understanding that what she once lost wasn't just a person, it was an opportunity to truly learn what love demands. Growth doesn't come in one grand moment of realization. It comes slowly, through quiet acceptance, through nights of reflection, and through mornings where she finally breathes without pain. At first, she doesn't even notice it happening. It begins in small ways. The way she no longer checks his profile before sleeping. The way she stops reaching for her phone when something good happens. The way she finally laughs without guilt. The world that once felt heavy starts to feel lighter, not because she forgot him, but because she's learning to live with what she learned from him. The ache doesn't vanish. It transforms. It becomes a teacher, shaping her into someone softer, wiser, and more aware. The growth begins when she realizes that healing isn't about erasing memories. It's about changing what those memories mean to her. She used to replay them to find pain, to hold on, to justify her regret. Now she revisits them to understand herself, who she was then and who she's becoming now. She sees how much she depended on his validation, how she measured her worth through his affection, how she lost pieces of herself trying to be enough for someone else. The woman she was back then needed his love to feel whole. The woman she's becoming now understands that love can never replace the work she must do within herself. That understanding doesn't come easily. It arrives after she's broken, after she's empty, after she's spent enough time with her pain to realize that no one else can save her from it. There's a quiet power in watching herself rebuild. She starts caring about her peace more than her pride. She stops chasing closure from others and begins creating it on her own. She sets boundaries where she once made excuses. The things that used to trigger her no longer hold power over her because she's learned how to sit with discomfort without needing to run from it. She becomes more intentional with her words, her time, her emotions. She stops trying to prove her worth and starts living it. She begins to see that growth isn't glamorous. It's messy, uncomfortable, and lonely at times. But it's also liberating. Every layer she sheds brings her closer to the kind of woman she was always meant to be, the kind who can love deeply without losing herself in the process. She no longer romanticizes pain or mistakes it for depth. She understands that love isn't supposed to hurt constantly, and that a good man's love isn't a reward to earn, but a gift to nurture. She learns that real connection starts with honesty, the kind she now practices with herself. And with that honesty comes strength, not the kind that hardens her, but the kind that makes her gentle again. She starts to open her heart slowly, not out of desperation, but out of trust. Trust in herself, in her choices, in the timing of life. What once broke her no longer defines her, it refines her. Through loss, she found clarity. Through heartbreak, she found purpose. Through letting go, she found herself again. Not as who she was before him, but as someone entirely new, born from the lessons he left behind.